All right, so this one's going to be a lot shorter than the last one. Boris Yeltsin, 1991 to 1999. Boris Yeltsin was the leader of the Republic of Russia. And when the people of Russia rebelled against the coup against Gorbachev, Yeltsin was the guy who was in charge of that rebellion. I don't want to say rebellion, but he was in charge of that process. Here you can see a picture of Yeltsin. This is a famous picture. Yeltsin at one festival in Russia. He got drunk, got up on stage. He was dancing around like an idiot. But Yeltsin did have some endearing qualities. He did believe in some aspects of democracy. And when he was elected in 1991 as the leader of Russia and then later the leader of the Russian Federation, he really tried to institute some democratic reforms to give people a voice, something they hadn't had in their government for a long time. He was to some degree a capitalist. Now understand, both his principles of democracy and principles of capitalism were limited by the structures of the governmental system of this new commonwealth, this new federation of states. And so it put them in a difficult situation because they tried to go partially capitalist and partially democratic. And as we all know, if you try capitalism or try democracy just a little bit, it usually doesn't end well because you give people a little bit of freedom, you give people a little bit of choice, they want more. The economy crashes, everybody's producing bread, and so the price of bread plummets, so that nobody produces bread, and then the people are starving. No one understands the basic economics of supply and demand in the Soviet Union because they've never dealt with it. They've always had what we call a command economy, where the government commands people what to produce, how to produce, when to produce it, how much to produce, what they're going to charge for it. And now all of a sudden they're given freedom to set their own prices, and the economy just plummets into chaos. The inflation is out of control. The ruble becomes basically a worthless currency in the Soviet Union. Now, Yeltsin was also fighting his own demons. He was an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic. Now, understand, most people in Russia don't consider alcoholism a problem. It's a very normal aspect of life in the Soviet Union, or excuse me, in Russia. And Yeltsin is just a normal guy. You know, he has a liter of vodka for lunch because that's what everybody does. Well, that means by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, he's blitzed and can't even talk. So it causes a lot of problems. It starts to cause him some health problems. He gets very heavy, and he starts to have some heart problems. He has a couple of strokes. And really, the last couple of years of his reign, his daughter ruled by proxy, which means that he basically sat in an office and signed papers that she brought to him, and she made all the decisions about what was going to happen in Russia. And things just really deteriorated the last couple of years of his reign. And his daughter really kind of ran the show, and things got ugly, and the people were on the verge of rebellion. So Yeltsin finally in 1999 resigns and encourages people to vote for Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin, we see here winking at probably some chick because, you know, he's a manly man riding a Ritz cracker or whatever. He is going to be a very interesting character, former KGB, head of the KGB, the secret police of the Soviet Union. The guy knows how to run a country. He is an autocratic ruler of a democratic state. Absolute total control over everything he wants, everything he says, everything he believes, and has total control over every aspect of society. He did then provide some economic stability to Russia, which certainly the people were happy about. He also was able to start the process of exploiting the natural resources that were in Siberia that had been such a problem for Russia to exploit over the years and for the Soviet Union to exploit. So he all of a sudden provided some economic stability, some courage to Russia, if you will, so that Russia could start to play an important role. However, he did have a lot of strict social controls over society. Because he is still a communist at heart and a member of the KGB, he still has the government doing a lot of things to control individual rights, controlling how people behave. They pass a law in the Soviet Union, or excuse me, in the Commonwealth of Independent States, or the Russian Federation, whatever you want to call them. They pass a law making it illegal to be homosexual. And you can go to jail if you are believed to be homosexual. So there's a lot of weird things that they do. He puts a lot of restrictions on freedom of speech and press. People can write anything they want as long as it's not critical of him or his government or a decision that they make or something that they do. So in other words, they have no political freedom. I can talk about other people, I can do things, but I don't have any political freedom. So he's kind of a conundrum. A lot of Russians, and for most Russians, for most people in the Russian Federation, they love Putin and they hate him. They love the fact that he makes Russia strong and powerful and relevant again, because under Yeltsin, Russia had basically become a joke of a country. Nobody really cared about Russia or Russia's opinion on anything. Putin made Russia relevant again. He's made them a powerful force again, economically, politically, socially, in the world. But at what cost? It has come at the cost of their individual freedoms. It's come at the cost of freedom of press. It has come at the cost of restrictions on their freedoms as individuals. So it's really been a tough situation for the Russians as they deal with Putin. Putin ruled from 2000 to 2008. Had to leave office because of a constitutional requirement that he could only serve 2 consecutive terms as president. Then he was reappointed as the head of of Russia. What was he called? He called the head of state by his replacement, Gregory Malenkov, who was basically a puppet for Putin. And then in 2012, Putin ran again for president of the Russian Federation, and he won with a 58% vote, even though most polling showed that he was probably not getting 45% of the votes. So there's a lot of beliefs of corruption and political repression, and his enemies, end up dead. They end up poisoned to death. So it's really an interesting process with his leadership style. And today, Putin is still the leader of the Russian Federation and still in control. So there you have your leaders of the 20th century in Russia. Enjoy, and good luck on the test Friday.